Thanks for coming over to this Amodeus. Before we get started with today's Dungeon Hunter Champion video, I want to give a huge shout out to Moon and his guild GucciGang for sharing insights and builds. So thank you so much for taking all the time and answering questions and having the back and forth. It was a very enlightening conversation, and I appreciate the insights. Now, Moon is an endgame player, and we were going through his box today, and like I said, we had a great conversation around a bunch of different units, tier lists, different Dungeon Hunter champions that he and his guildmates have built. And one of the big things that Moon and I talked about that I really had to take away on one share today was around tier lists. So there are a lot of tier lists out there, and as a rule, I don't use them. Now, a lot of effort goes into some of them, and absolutely none goes into others. In all cases, though, I think there's no discussion of team composition and what that unit does, where it does it, and how well, right? Instead, there's a standalone conversation about how good a unit is in a dungeon, period, right? No builds, no nothing. And the conversation with Moon this morning, he kind of agreed and he had some points. I was like, yeah, that's really smart. We should definitely be looking at that. And I think the value of the champion is based on the team it's a part of's overall performance, right? So towards a specific goal. So let's take on Steel Widow. In the background, you see Steel Widow going. So here's a team that just completed Steel Widow in 1 minute and 3 seconds. Here's how everybody did. Are they good? They're bad. What's the tier? This team works because it's all put together. Here's the exact same team. I changed one gear. So that is literally just one piece of gear that we changed on one of the units in this team. And the Dungeon Hunter Champion team that we're running is a 1 minute team. It's filled with a couple of S+ tier units, according to most tier lists. But because we changed that one piece of gear, it's going to change some other dynamics in the team. So in this particular team, you can see that the Archangel is acting with his shield to prevent people from dying. So it's acting as almost like a heal, except it's just replacing the shield so that people take less damage. But if you look, the team progressed through the waves about a second faster, but it's important because it's dishing out more damage right now than the other team to the actual Steel Widow. So we gained some time in the waves, and now we're gaining time between shields going up on the Steel Widow to actually deal more damage. And that's the key, right? Because if you can cycle damage through fast enough, then you aren't going to have to deal with as many shields. And if that shield doesn't go up, you get these faster times. This time is 54 seconds. Right? Is that 54? Yeah, 54 seconds. Look at the damage. It's almost the same. It's just about when that damage occurred. However, what we can say is that the team was pretty iffy as far as survivability goes. But let's look at the piece of gear we changed. Okay, so basically we changed the piece of gear on Rota. So here's her stats now. If you're familiar with my Rota, you immediately see the difference. There's some crit damage on here. And that's because the piece of gear we changed was on a glove, right? We actually put a crit damage glove on and took off this keen piece right here. Yeah, this one. Which was defense. So that made the team more survivable, but ultimately Rota was putting out less damage. It didn't make any other member of the team better. Now, you're like, well, we shaved 10 seconds off of a run. Yeah, that's the whole point. It was a piece of gear. It wasn't about the individual champions on the team. It was about bringing everything together on that team and the synergy that team had as a whole, dealing damage, getting different things done. And that's one of the reasons that I really feel that there's some disconnects with those tier lists. And perhaps, just based on this, like you're like, oh, well, Amo, that's a 54-second team. That's pretty great. Well, if you look at a tier list and you're like, the Nature Diva is the very best healer for Steel Widow 11, I have to question that because that team that we just ran in 54 seconds doesn't have a healer, right? In fact, I think if you had a healer, it probably wouldn't do 54 seconds at all because it's just not going to do enough damage, right? Because we actually have our Archangel built to deal out a little bit of damage. So for me, I'm just thinking like, well, I really got to question those tier lists because I think it's more about team composition and specific champion builds because I'm going to switch this back. Now, I'm not going to do it tonight because I don't want to pay another 100,000 gold, but I'm going to switch it back because I think that value I get is in the teams not dying, right? Not just having great speed teams. And that team was just too close to dying. Because Rota wasn't tough enough, right? And you all know the moment a unit dies, the moment a champion fails, those lasers come in and it's just game over. Like, just give up. Like, I'm done, right? So I really kind of wanted to get that across to the community, because that was a big learning for me, based on that conversation with Moon this morning. So once again, shout out to Moon. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me, and really got me thinking about this stuff. And, you know, if you are a huge fan of tier lists, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong, right? Maybe I'm kind of dissecting those tier lists in a different way than they were actually intended. Because what I'm looking at is team compositions, individual champion builds, and seeing the huge impact that just changing a single piece of gear has on an entire team composition. It doesn't denigrate the value of the individual champions, but I mean, the impact is so huge. It's just, you got to take a step back and be like, is this the right team comp? Sure. But do you have the right gear? Even if it's just a single piece of gear can change the entire dynamic. What does that look like? But those are my thoughts. As always, drop your comments below. Let me know what you think. Let's create a conversation around this. And thank you so much for watching the videos. Have a great day. Bye.